Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here in Mendham and such. Starting off with just a little personal indulgence, if you don't mind. I did a video on my draft physics website, and I know some people just hate that I would talk about how science sucks, but anyway. There's a particular video on mu mesons, and it's on the debatephysics.com website below all the kinetic energy stuff, and it's a video from the 1960s where they do kind of a complicated experiment, but it's really not that hard to follow along. And in my opinion, this is a video that has been written up in papers. It's cited as a reference. It's kind of foundational in terms of their science, their standard model kind of crap, and it's stated to prove another proof of time dilation and all that kind of stuff, and it's just a steaming piece of nonsense. I mean, the logic of the experiment is so fundamentally flawed. So I explain that in my video, and there's a copy of the original video, and I'm pleading for somebody to try to contrive some excuse that would make science look okay. I mean, this video has been viewed by people who really, only people really interested in physics would watch this video, and the fact that nobody has noticed that the whole thing is pretty much irrational in terms of the premises, what they've assumed in doing the experiment, it's just nuts. And sort of a demonstration that the scientists aren't doing much better than the religious kooks. They're not really doing better than flat earthers, frankly. This is so bad that you really have to put it in the category of flat earth science, because it's just, there's no way you should be fooled. A scientist shouldn't be fooled, frankly. Somebody with a physics degree shouldn't be fooled by the video. Alright, so just a request, because there just aren't enough people viewing the other channel, so I can't get anyone to either admit that science looks pretty bad or explain how there's some sort of explanation, some sort of way of perverting reality where that experiment could be viewed as credible when it's incredible nonsense. Alright, thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Now back to the regularly scheduled stuff. Wrong channel. This one. Alright. So, I did notice, I do watch Warbles on a lot of videos now and then, and he threw in some little dumpy rag about Ephilism towards the end of one of his videos, so I decided to play that and rag on it. And then a longtime friend of the channel sent me a link to a Blithering Genius video from 5 months ago, and so I played some of that. And frankly, both videos provide an opportunity to argue with other perspectives. Now, one of the perspectives is classical religious kook. Can't really reason with a religious moron or a Buddhist, somebody who's got the special knowledge of, how deserve really does have something to do with it and ain't all that bad. The imposing, versus, somebody who is, so, profoundly retarded by an inability to see the obvious. So it's worse than being colorblind. Like, it's not like he's just missing some nuance. He's missing seeing at all. It's as if he might as well be, deaf and dumb, and it's really hard to do all this little, crapola to explain anything. Somehow you have to put it in his language, and it's not very practical. And I would argue there's so few of these true nihilist loonies that, yes, it is like wasting your time arguing with flat earthers. They're not going to take over the world, okay? Morons who don't understand what value is are pretty few and far between. I mean, most people can figure out that feelings matter, and if you can prevent something from feeling bad, that would probably be a good idea. So that's not the problem. Obviously, the problem with most people is their hypocrisy, their bigotry, the fact that they love their dog and cat and they somehow don't respect at all the cow and the pig. Those kind of nonsenses. And we certainly don't have any appreciation for the fact that wild animals are trapped in an insidious little game. You know, it's a little, you know, the pinball machine they're trapped in is insidiously cruel. And because they don't have an answer for that, they just run away from the fact that it's happening. And that's their problem. You know, that's the problem there, is just getting them to recognize that, no, it's really our responsibility. We have the big brain. We're the ones that have to take responsibility for anything we let happen. I mean, it's our fault if it happens. It's our fault because we do have the power to make it not happen. Fact. Okay. So that's the subject. So on to the video, and you know, we'll see if, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. I mean, you know, these arguments are getting, I mean, the only good thing that's happening on this channel, I suppose, is the fact that, yeah, it is becoming kind of obvious what's actually being argued. And, you know, it's getting more and more direct that the subject really is just that simple. We're really just arguing something that's been argued for hundreds of years, in the sense of arguing against people's nepotism and their bigotries and, you know, racism, nationalism, whatever, ethnicity-ism, you know, yeah. You don't have a word for that. I just don't think I know it. You know, somebody who's just an ethnic bigot. You know, it's really not about race. It's just about, you know, culture. Culturalism. Yeah, you know, that just doesn't sound great. Anyway. Alright, where did we leave off? Yeah, over here. Okay, so leave us start to play. Moved with the sun to gain its full efficiency. You're throwing away half of its value if you don't move it with the sun. Alright, so I was just talking about the backstory of Warbles on a lot, and so I've made this argument on this channel that, you know, it's just disgraceful that we're subsidizing this solar technology, and then we're subsidizing applications of it that are completely a gigantic waste. Half the energy is wasted putting these panels on roofs. Half is wasted just putting them on the roof. There's another half wasted that they're putting on roofs that aren't even facing south. So it's bad enough that they don't move, they don't follow the sun. That's half the energy lost. They're not even on roofs that are facing in that direction, so that's another quarter lost. So they're running at 1/4 their efficiency. So we're subsidizing a technology that's kind of environmentally significant in its creation, and does have a blood footprint, and we're pretending, you know, we're going to save ourselves, and then we're utilizing it just pitifully poorly. I mean, all these panels should be on a farm somewhere. They should be all, you know, tied together. They should be maintained, cleaned, all that kind of stuff. They should not be on people's fucking roofs. I mean, just the installation on a roof. You know, you gotta pay guys to do that shit. You know, climb up on a building with a, you know, 80-degree slope and, you know, mountain climb to, you know, nail some panels up there. You know, without the roof leaking. You know, that ain't free. So, you know, the whole thing is so stupid. And it's just another example of the so stupid that's going on. And people are sitting here, you know, defending the system, so to speak, as if it functions in some sort of rational way when it's completely irrational. insanely irrational. Crazy irrational. Alright, next. I wish it was kind of mechanism. So anyway, so he's just a good candidate for just supposing two human brains. Okay, let's just say, yeah, he's just a good example of silly thinking, trivial thinker. Somebody just really doesn't think too hard and just, you know, traditionally humans in terms of my kids are more important than your kids. I'm going to talk about how proud I am, and I'm going to, you know, and it's all, you know, it's just so juvenilely, okay, emotionalism and crapola. You know, there's no, you know, as much as he's got his little science eyeglass on there, he's really not thinking very completely. Yeah, I guess that's one way of saying it. Well, that's the way I chose to say it. The asshole. Ah, now I'm starting the video. Yeah, so it's the usual routine. Takes a while to get started. Everything requires some context. It's defending the Roman, you know, gladiators, you know. So he's a big defender of the natural system. It was here first. It knows what it's doing. Everything's just great. I mean, eating each other is really a great idea because then all of the dead bodies disappear and blah, 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 blah. And so what? We have to kill them to make them dead. It's okay. It's all cleaned up in the end and all goes, you know, squeak, squeak. Everything's just fine. Nothing to see here. No problems to fix. You know, torture isn't a big deal. What the hell? You think torture's a problem? Huh. It was anything other than an Adam and Eve circumstance. Alright, so then he was talking about this crappy idea that somehow we have to envision the universe and the stars explode and supernova and the little bits fly off and little living things, you know, fly to another planet and then hatch again or whatever, start eking around and they, I don't know, somehow impregnate themselves and blah, 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 blah. And life flourishes. Why do you need to do any of that crap? Every bit of evidence exists pointing to the fact that whatever evolution happened on this earth, it was pretty much a complete story. Because we have the evidence of the insanely primitive forms of life that no way did any space traveling because, you know, they didn't have a spacesuit and all that kind of crap, and there's no way they survived space travel. So, and there's things older than that. Older than the stuff that could survive space travel is on this planet, okay? Stuff that is more, you know, fundamental, elemental. And stuff doesn't evolve backwards. Okay, it really just doesn't happen that way. You know, there's no incentive to lose your tools evolutionarily. All right. So just too silly an idea. Just part of the fun, you know, ignorant people have speculating about magic and nonsense. He might as well be talking about how it certainly is proven that, you know, if you do step on a crack, it's going to break your mother's back. I mean, it's just so much evidence for it. How can anybody deny the truth? You know, it might as well be astrology. Need nucleic cells to cause any effects that would make more viruses. Right, so he mentioned viruses and this and that, and I just had to point out that viruses really are just a disease of more complicated life. They didn't come, the virus didn't come first, so to speak. Okay, the virus was just a symptom of the fact that cells can be duped, you know, by chemicals. They can be fooled and do something really stupid, which is, you know, like the cuckoo bird stealing another bird's nest and forcing them to raise its egg. Cells can be fooled into wasting their resources making some other DNA molecule, replicating. Explain why we can't make any of it. You know, okay, and then, you know, the whole argument is they talk about like, oh, it'll happen no matter where. All you need is a flat, oh, well, I mean, a round surface And you throw some elements on it, and poof, life happens. And no, there's no poof. And every piece of evidence indicates that all of this stuff is very rarely happens, because here we are on a planet covered in just, it's the amount of raw materials, of parts, is insane. It's the biggest, hugest junkyard ever. And not even a wrench is popping out of it. Not even the simplest combination of pieces into a mechanical tool is popping out. There's not even the toaster doesn't even pop out of the junk pile. Nothing jumps out that is new, different. That's your perception. You can kill all the cats. You think, okay, so yeah, so I was talking about his hypocrisy, because he does, he spent a lot of video time empathizing and talking about the trials and tribulations of a dying cat that was a pet. But he doesn't have any regard for the ones running right, 50 feet away that might run across that field. He'll shoot him in the eye. I mean, just too silly. The hypocrisy. It reflects light in an interesting way. That's a little loud. Sorry if that whole thing has been a little loud. I just noticed it seemed a little loud. Alright, so he was using the existence of some green slime in a 60-year-old washing machine as evidence of the marvel of the living organism's struggle to endeavor to persevere, or some sort of shit. But there's no way you make these justifications for the real so yeah, and the real implication is this shit could be full of, this thing with this slime in it could be full of flesh-eating bacteria. There could have been a little fluffy bird who lived in the, bird couldn't really get in there, but you know what I mean. There could be something that was in there and its whole life got ruined because it got displaced by this green slime. It's just silly to look at the victor and then say, oh, it didn't come at any price. Look at the beautiful eagle soaring, and it's got this blood footprint. All these organisms that aren't soaring because of that fucker. They're not doing anything, because they got their fucking brains picked out by that fucking bastard. I mean, it's so selective. It's such a cheat of the truth. Alright, so that was the silly person video, and this is the brainless person, because they can't figure out the most elemental building block of logic, which is identify the important stuff. And they can't figure out that how things that can feel, how those things feel, is fucking important. Can't figure it out. Can't understand that as a truth. I mean, it's so silly. You're just, how the fuck could you miss it? How could you go through your life and miss the fact that there's just a cavern of value difference between feeling good and feeling bad? There's no other difference. It's just value difference. The difference is completely made out of whatever the distinction between good and bad is. If bad was a color and good was a color, the difference would be the difference in those colors and its value. You can't understand it as anything else. I don't think I have much of an Adam's apple. So yeah, I was just ragging on this portraiture done by a jackass who doesn't show himself in his own videos. So if you're going to draw pictures of me, you probably should have the balls to, put yourself in your videos so other people can mock your appearance in some way. And things could happen, whether I throw this to the left or I throw it to the right. It matters because feeling things will be affected by which way I throw it. So it's a pretty good argument, right? That's the dilemma of our existence. That should be the real one of those points, the kicking point that just tips you and says, yeah, I can see this is serious because it's just fucking true. Every single thing I do, I snap my fingers with my left hand versus my right hand, I will change the destiny of things. You know, how you throw out your garbage, every single thing you do could actually kill people. I mean, fact. You know, change the entire destiny of millions of organisms because you decided to walk left instead of right. You know, the fact that everything hinges on such bullshit should frighten the fuck out of you. If you're rational, that is, if you put facts together logically, you should be horrified. You know, there's probably a better word, but that you should be pretty distressed. You should be panicking quite a bit that everything is left up to such bullshit, uncontrolled, tinily nuanced circumstances where it's pretty much impossible to force the right result because you can't know enough about how to operate this piece of shit. The steering wheel is so disconnected from the wheels that you should be scared shitless driving down the road. This little Sally playing with her doll is going to get smished.
They spend a lot of time just saying, well, sorry, Inmendham, I never said that, so you're just lying again.
Well, fuck you. Yeah, it's pretty much that's the video. Frankly, it's just a joke. He made a 4-hour and 51-minute video where he just whines and complains that somehow he can't find my arguments and he can't figure out what the subject is or something, and it's because I'm some sort of evading the subject, or I'm somehow evading his profoundly brilliant argument explaining how feelings are a fraud and they're fooling us and they really don't matter, and guess what, torture is just the same as not being tortured, and so don't worry about it because everything's okay, because pain and suffering isn't a bad thing at all. We're just assigning it a silly word and label. We've falsely labeled it shitty when no, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing shitty about it. Torture is great. It's at least just as great as fun. I mean, it's that stupid.
Yes, so somebody brought him up in a live video thing and made the claim that I'm afraid to debate him or something, and it's just crap. I remember.
Yeah, I'll debate anybody if this is somehow important to people in some sort of back and forth form. But the whole argument is it should have some productive purpose. That is, there should be some reason that you've identified why you can't just respond to my video, why you can't just take my argument, consolidate it, into some reasonable form that you can project on your screen. He says this is my argument, this silly image, and counter it. But he doesn't do. I mean, again, this isn't a difficult argument, okay? He's arguing against all people who think there really is a significant difference between, people dying in the Holocaust and people having birthday parties. This really doesn't make any difference. People in labor camps, who cares? Not a big deal. Work all day, 17 hours a day. You got a job where you have to work 17 hours a day. You got a job where you work 2 hours a day. Same difference. Feelings don't matter. How it feels, who cares? That can't be important. It's just an insanely insipid perspective. I mean, he really is looking at the world as a blind, deaf, dumb person who never had a Helen Keller. Never had the other thing, the Dr. Watson or whatever her name was. See, ball or something, and therefore they don't exist. And I'm telling you that there's an arrangement in my brain creating a sensation, and there's absolutely no doubt that wherever I put that arrangement in the universe, something bad is happening. Yeah, there's just no doubt about it. There's just no doubt about it. So, you know, I just got over the shingles thing and terrible back. I take those sensations, you know, the minimum ones, and I take out my memory of my grandmother, and I take out all my old personal crap, and I just put that pile of neural crapola that is that sensation. Well, if I just duplicate that thing and then throw it into the universe, I know it's a bad idea. There's just no doubt about it. You know, surgery without anesthesia. You know, I take that little brain, you know, state, and I decide to clone it over and over and over, make zillions and zillions of copies of, you know, some poor person being tortured. Yeah, it can be understood. That's not a good idea. Don't do that one. That's not what you replicate in this universe, because that's got bad on it. It's got a big pile of bad on it. And he's basically just saying my shit doesn't stink or something. He's just pretending it doesn't exist, and it's just too fucking silly. Unfortunately, it is a very tiny minority of psychotic motherfucking pieces of human shit that are infected by this. Is Audie says you have to have an is before you can have an ought. You know, bullshit. Is Audie says so. It's a tiny number of people. How much they like not suffering. Yes, you can see it on their faces, so to speak. I mean, I really don't need to have this argument. It's beneath arguing. It's really beneath arguing. It's just so stupid. It's like arguing whether we have, whatever, feet or 10 toes or, you know, it's just beneath arguing.
Just inmendham, arguing against an imaginary opponent.
And some of that's good. You know, in this case, I'm just going to play one of his videos, not particularly random, but just out of the...
Okay, whatever. So, you know, he does a response video, and he plays me making an argument like I just made about this elementalness of sensation, that it is in fact a reality in the universe. It does happen. There's no denying that it does in fact happen. And you can call it synthetic, and you can call it a simulation, you can call it lots of things. Doesn't fucking matter. It happens, and we can identify it as having this quality of badness. It's really easy to do. Okay, it's not a difficult observation to make. It's like saying a clam has clamness. I mean, it really is as simple as saying, yes, water is wet. Bad was invented as a concept because it described a human being having bad experiences. That's where the word came from. So that's the truth. Or something like that. Somehow, some other mechanism besides us recognizing the essential value. What has the essence of value? Right. So I often talk about it like a commodity. You know, the whole doing this whole exchange rate thing. This strive to be sufficiently efficient in what we do, and that sufficiency comes out of this understanding that you don't pay, you know, $10 trillion for the prize inside of a box of Cracker Jack. You just don't do it. Too stupid. And we're paying way too much for whatever this charmingness is of being, you know, smarter than the average calculator. You know, yeah, that's just not worth it. Too high a price. Way too high a price. Right here and explain how there is a rational excuse. Explain how there's some good reason that you should have the right or power to inject. So that was one of the arguments I made in the video he was responding to, and he just stepped right over it and pretended it wasn't even made. So, you know, what's the point? He's going to do 4 hours and 51 minutes of completely evade the simply stated argument. We're paying too much, and we're imposing overtly. That it's just rude and obnoxious to decide for some other feeling creature that they must endure something you can't guarantee. That they have to endure pains and torments and sufferings that you haven't experienced and that you wouldn't do on a bet, so to speak. That you would pay $1 billion to evade. That you would do everything you could not to have that happen to you. How the fuck can you call that being a decent person? I will impose risk I'm not willing to face. I'm already grown past them, so I don't have to worry about it. So I'll give the vulnerability to somebody else that it happens to them. Videos are pretty damn good in terms of making a concise argument. Okay, so I think I was just pointing out that I didn't know what what the hell that reference even means. So I was just thinking maybe he was talking about the Gray videos or something, and that somehow those aren't nice, concise arguments. When, yes, that's exactly what they are, nice, concise arguments. Just me vaping is probably not. Well, that's him talking, so we might as well play that part. Then starts just becoming background music, and my brain starts... Okay, so he was griping because, he doesn't think he has to be in his videos. And I was just explaining how, he's also saying because I have 2 images in the video that, that's something weird or blah, blah, blah. And it has a purpose. I mean, obviously there's other videos I make where I need to draw and do other things, and so it's convenient to have another camera. And there might as well be something for people's eyes to do while they're watching the video. I think it helps for most people to have something for their eyes to do. Maybe we learn that from reading, and your brain gets used to doing something while you're absorbing information, and so it's just kind of a compliant to what they've been habituated to. We'll come back to this. Yeah, so I'll play some more of it in another video, I guess. See if there's an argument in there somewhere. I don't know if I'm even going to bother playing the 4 hours and 51 minutes unless he starts to make an argument somewhere explaining why he has the special evidence. Okay, this is the special viewfinder. He has a little whatever, light bright or something, and he looks through his little light bright and he can see the truth that, oh, feelings are fake. They don't really happen in the universe. Alright, anyway. So, that was this week's video. So, and such. So, well, I'll get back to the regularly scheduled whatever it was, and he just doesn't know. I probably won't. I'll see whatever. I'll just make videos as I make videos, finding the argument and making it where necessary and all of that crap, and that's all I can do, for now. That's the best I can do, so that's what I'm doing, and such. Yeah, we'll see. Alright, so till the next time and such, this has been it's an inmendham video. yeah, that's what it is. That's what it's been. Week 828. And I didn't start counting right from the beginning, right? So it's really probably week 1000 by now. But whatever. So, long time, and not very fruitful, but you never know. Some seeds take a long time to germinate. It's like, coconuts. They gotta, palm trees. The seeds gotta float in the ocean for 10 years. It's just kind of funny. Before the thing will grow. Alright, anyway, so till the next time, and such, and so forth, and whatnot. Yeah, that's enough. Hi. How you doing? Yeah.